Call a 6:30 meeting to order, and item 1B will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2, open forum. Is there anyone here for open forum on finances? Nobody on Zoom. Seeing none. Item 3, presentation by Anthony Jessen of UBS Financial Services Incorporated. Take a motion. Steve? Marcella? Discussion? All in favor? 0. Good evening, sir.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
I imagine this thing's going to pick me up.
I'm sure.
I do know that the recording has started.
Yes.
I heard that.
Yeah.
It's great to be up here. I really enjoy coming to Lincoln. Once a year, I usually come up, and I'd rather if it were the summertime and I could see around, look at the lake and all of that, and the hills, mountains around, but beautiful spot, and really enjoy coming up and seeing everyone in person. So I won't take a lot of your time. I know you have important business this evening, and I will be talking about innovation this evening and its effect on corporate earnings, which are very, very important, the key item towards rates of return for you. And I will talk about the fact that artificial intelligence is leveraging innovation and in effect leveraging corporate earnings. And we now use a thing called Microsoft Copilot at our offices, and I think maybe some of you might see it. However, one very interesting thing that it will do is if you receive a string of emails that might go, or you have a string of emails, then there's another key piece that comes to it, and maybe they've been going on for a long time and it's a long string. You can hit summarize, and it's pretty cool because it will put that big string into a summarization. You can go through and check. But part of my point here is that for the fun of it, I always write my notes up and type them up for the town meeting, and so I hit it's not summarized, but it will rewrite it for you. And lucky for you, my work is about a page. The artificial intelligence is about a page and a half, and it also contains some things that need correction. It got a little bit of math wrong, and anyway, so that's innovation. It's still very, very good, and very, very interesting to see where it takes us all. What I thought I would do this evening is similar to what I've done in the past, which is to give you a quick summary of what's been going on in the markets, stock market, bond market so far this year. And then to, of course, go through the particulars of each account and how they have done and why they have done what they've done. And then I did bring up the math of your spending over the last 12 or so years, and just so that you can see the withdrawals, percentage withdrawals when you get into budgeting and figuring out how much you're going to take from the Cobb and Maine PERS assets. So I'll do that. Then I'll give you some outlook, and if nothing ahead of that, if no one has a direction that they'd like me to go, I'll start into it when you're ready.
Please do.
Okay. So pretty exciting markets. I don't know if some of you watch them, or if you watch your account statements from retirement accounts or other things, but in in April, we were down about 15% around the Liberation Day and the announcement of all the tariffs. The markets are finicky, and I like to say that day to day they move on voodoo. Longer term, they move on earnings. Short term, they move on many times emotion. So April down 15%. Since then, on the strength of earnings, plus 34% off that bottom. And when I did this report last Wednesday, overall up about 14%. So for us sitting in the seats of watching that every day, all day, of course, we're doing a really the big job we have is long-term planning and consultation with clients, but we are right there day to day. So it's been an active and exciting, let's say, year. In some ways, not good exciting. Minus 15% is not good exciting. So anyway, last year, 2024, when I was here, I talked about Federal Reserve cutting interest rates twice. They've cut interest rates once this year. And so that's where we are in terms of that. That affects the bond markets to some extent. It affects things like the mortgage markets. And most times, I should say, on that. So that's bonds. Stock wise, again, we have the so-called Magnificent Seven companies, which it's Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and used to be Facebook, now Meta. Really driving the rates of return in large indexes like the Standard & Poor's 500, which is, of course, 500 of the largest publicly traded US companies. So 7 companies, they make up about 42%, just call it 40% of the value of an index full of 500 companies. And they're about 34% of the, call it 30% of the rate of return this year of the Standard & Poor's 500. And that really is one of the reasons why there can be emotion-driven downs in the stock market, because there's always worry when a small amount of companies makes up a lot of the rate of return. Standard & Poor's 500, as I mentioned, up about 14% with lower rates. Bonds have done nicely this year, up about 7%. And that's the lay of the land in terms of where we are, where we've been with the markets for the year, in a nutshell. Any questions on that? So let's get to the interesting part. And not that that's not interesting, but previous isn't interesting. But anyway, let's look at your numbers. If you go to the first report, which will say UBS client review on it, and it'll have 5 different accounts listed there. This is the sum of all the assets that UBS manages for the town of Lincoln. And I'll call your attention to a few spots. So opening portfolio value, this goes back in time to 2013. And you'll see that on the bottom left, 2,444,000. Anyone not see that? So looking at deposits and withdrawals since 2013, it's been almost 3 million that's come out, 2,913,000. So had you had zero rate of return, you'd be at about minus 470,000. And obviously that wouldn't be friendly. So between the change of value line, which is a little bit to the right, where you see 4,070,000, and that's growth in asset values inside the portfolio, plus the 1,300,000 and about 20,000 in dividend and interest column, which is the third column over from the left. There's almost 5,400,000 of earnings and closing portfolio value of almost 5 million between the PERS and the COB. So what does that mean? What's the rate of return for this year? If you look at 2025 and go to the top, it's actually a little over 9%. And if you look at all of the years since 2013, it's slightly over 7%. In both cases, the equivalent, what do I say, a benchmark with an equivalent asset allocation has been little less rate of return than that. So what we're trying to do with the town of Lincoln is keep preservation of principle right on top. However, we also want to be, in a sense, as greedy as possible with rate of return. And that's what's allowed for all of the spending over the years. And it's not short. I don't think it's too soon to mention that the COB's almost 100 years old. And that's pretty neat. I mean, it was an achievement to be the sort of place that had the sort of citizens that impressed the warehousers that an endowment would be appropriate. And it's equally impressive that the town has not only that money left, but it has contributed to needs that the town has had over the decades, yet has kept an eye on, you know what, this endowment's a good thing. Let's keep it around for those who are here 10, 20, 30 years from now. So just note those things. Any question on these pages? This page? All righty. So I apologize for my handwriting. We printed all these, and I realized that the account names weren't there, and so I added them rather than filling a few more trees, I guess. But anyway, we'll go to the COB next. And talking about that magnificent 7, just to say that to have an exposure, I would argue that to have an exposure to the so-called Mag 7 companies to the percentages that something like the Standard & Poor's 500 has, I don't think that would be appropriate for the town because of the amount of risk. So anyway, one of the investment managers owns about 3 of the so-called Mag 7 companies. The growth manager, remember, we have about half growth, about half value style in terms of the stock side. That makes up about 60% of the portfolios, about 40 is in bonds. But the growth manager owns 3 different of the 7 Mag 7 companies, and it makes up about 7% of the portfolio on the stock side. So that's the kind of exposures there. The value side owns just 2, Google and Amazon. It's about 3%. And recall that value style investing is really after higher dividends and lower prices for the businesses, not lower stock prices. In other words, not a $10 stock rather than a $50 stock. But when you're buying a company at a multiple of sales or a multiple of earnings, cheaper prices. So by nature, you're going to have fewer of the, certainly of the hot rod growth stocks like the so-called Mag 7 on the value side. My major point with all of that is that the town of Lincoln doesn't have the risk of the far extended stock prices. However, the rates of return are strong. So let's just take a look at the COB. If you go to page 2, you can see, just to go across on 2025, started the year at 2.9. Everybody see that? And then 224,000 withdrawals. You can see the dividend income and the change in value. So after the 224 came out, the account value as of last Wednesday, and it will be bigger today, of course, with the up moving ad, but 2,972,000, so almost 9%, a very good rate of return, and a little better than the indexes again. So that's the COB. That's the COB.
So out of the COB, we're sitting on 2,972,000, but we've taken out of that 2,214,568.
Over the years.
Over the years since 2013.
Yeah.
We've been able to put over $2 million towards the town.
Right.
Without hurting the account.
Well, there's been very good rate of return that's happened. Again, with the idea that we're not going to take too much risk. We're going to look at preservation of principal very, very sharply. And on the same side, we're going to try to grow it.
Yeah.
That's what we're after. Yep. Yep. But your numbers are correct, John. Anybody else? Alrighty. So the next set is the main PERS, and you can just run right to page 2 there. So the main PERS is interesting from my perspective, in general, but specifically regarding the time that the money was deposited in 2016. Let's just go to 2025, though. You see the opening value of $1,884,000. 209 came out, so well over 10%, which is certainly unsustainable over time. That would liquidate this account, taking 10 or 11, that's probably 11%. I don't know, maybe even a little more. However, that came out, and you can see the earnings, and started end of the year down just 32,000, I think I see, with 209 coming out. So those are the numbers for this year. As I say, the interesting thing about the main person, you can see that rate of return a little over 8%. But if you go for all of the years, the average rate of return on the bottom's been a little under 8.2 versus an index of 7.44. Now, I don't know who's here, who that was here in 2016, but the town went along with my recommendation. As I say, a lot of times the markets are driven by emotion. There were some tangible things going on that year. Oil was down to $30 a barrel, and it's 60 something now, and it's of course been 100. And there was a meltdown in the China market that was getting a lot of news, down more than 40%. And the Federal Reserve had just started an interest rate hiking, as they call it, increasing interest rates, which of course slows down business and makes the emotional sellers worried. So at any rate, I came up when that was occurring, and that's when we invested the main PERS money. So that created an excess rate of return by buying when the emotional sellers were selling. So anyway, a little bit of interesting history.
So with this account here, we started out with 1.971 million.
Correct.
We've spent towards the town 2.612 million, almost 2.613. And we still have 1,852,150 going forward.
Right. And you're 9 years in. It's not a long time,
Right.
relatively speaking.
But with your help, we've been able to put over $2 million, $2.5 million towards the town.
That's correct. And it's my help. It's also the steady hand of the counselors and the manager. Right, Rick? Anyway, the steady hand's key, and I've seen the faces change and some of them become the same again over the decades now that I've helped the town, and it's been a similar attitude among the counselors. So the final one I'll go through is the McGregor. And the McGregor actually is a slightly more in stocks and less in bonds. It's a smaller amount of money, and it's doing very well where it is. It's about 65% stock, 35 bonds. And this year, for two reasons. One, it has more stocks. Second, it has a significant allocation to overseas companies, which have done better, significantly better than the US this year. So if you look to the top this year, the McGregor's plus almost 15%. And it's that started as 89 back in 13. 56 has come out, and it's 110 now. And when it did get down to 83 back in 21, and whoever's making the decisions on taking money from here let it grow in 22, although 22 was a non-growth year to say the least. But anyway, to not touch it in 22, sometimes, often the town needs to take money regardless of what the markets are doing. So over the years, over the decades, the town has taken significant money with the markets down significantly. The key to the ability to succeed out of that is the town hasn't said, not only are we going to take money, but we're going to get out of the markets entirely because, I don't know, my uncle's scared, or I'm scared, or what have you. There hasn't been that second thing that's happened that would kill the golden goose, so to speak. So anyway, but 22, no money out, 23 no money out, 24, less than 5% out, and 5% from a fiduciary perspective is a number that can be removed and still with an expectation of as I call it, the golden goose staying healthy over time. So 24, less than 5%, 25, about 5%. So I'm not privy to the inner workings of the McGregor. I know it's for the library, but it's health, obviously much smaller asset, but it's quite healthy. Any questions on
Questions from the council?
anything?
I know it's going back to the first one. That in 2016, we had a significant deposit, basically doubling the amount. And that effectively where the other ones we've had growth. That one is really has, our opening portfolio value has gone down. Are we taking too much money out of that one?
You're talking about the consolidated report that has all the accounts
Yes.
or just the main?
The one that the consolidated, this one that's got everything together.
Oh, okay. So let's look in 16. Yeah, you had that amount of money come in and you ended the year at 6 million.
Mhm.
And so there was growth of about
I'm
up
just-
towards 500,000.
I'm just looking in the last 3 years, we're down to 4.9.
Right. Well, let's take a look. And we can come back to the numbers on this page, but take a look at the final piece that I
Okay,
passed to you.
All right.
It's the withdrawal rates and we can see percentage amounts. And 2-year question, Gordon. Let's see, the last 5 years, the average withdrawal's been almost 12%.
right.
You can see there 11.6. And what we coach is 5% is a sustainable rate. 11%, well, almost 12% is not sustainable. It will drain the accounts. So, really it's the particulars or details of the town and the town's needs that drive those withdrawals and I'm sure there are good reasons for each year. But 12% is high. And I talked about having to take out larger amounts in negative years. 2022, the stock and bond markets were down 15% or maybe a little more. And Lincoln's needs said, hey, you know what? We need 16% of the portfolio, which is absolutely not sustainable. And it had to happen in that year where the market's down. So any financial assets in 2022 are kind of laying down on the floor, hoping for whatever's next. And they, in this case, they took a bit of an additional lashing. However, there was no move to say, you know what? Look at this year, 2022. It's scary and it's awful. We want out.
Mm.
Had there been, the accounts would look sharply less healthy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
More questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And just to say that UBS and myself were very proud to be a team member with Town of Lincoln. So keep on keeping on and we're here for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
Good night.
Thank you.
Suggested motion to adjourn. Steve? Gordon?
No.
Oh, Dan? All in favor? So move. 6:58.
Met your wife today?
What's that?